Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Tone Tailors Podcast. My name's Levi McCurdy, and this is episode number 3. And this week, I am so excited for you to hear my conversation with my new friend, Ben Roth. We talk about his time as being the owner and producer of the Kaleidoscope Recording Studio in Lancaster, as well as his roles at Zoetropolis and other venues around Lancaster County. He is the man with the plan. We talk everything from AI to Taylor Swift to the nitty-gritty of the music industry, and I can't thank him enough for his time. So please, if you could do me a favor, check out the description down below. There's going to be links to music from artists who have recorded at the Kaleidoscope Recording Studio, as well as plenty of other goodies you're going to want to click on to follow Ben, his businesses, the artists we feature in the episode, and so much more in the description down below. And please, if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, we greatly appreciate that algorithm boost. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening to this podcast, please give us a like, a thumbs up, a follow, a 5-star review, however you can show your love for free for this show. That lets me and the overlords at Tone Tailors know that we're doing a good job with this all-new Tone Tailors podcast. So please, ladies and gentlemen, as we get this episode started, hit like, hit subscribe, sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy episode number 3 of the Tone Tailors Podcast. It's a conversation with none other than Ben Roth.
It's been a rough one this week. These thoughts are so damn loud. Who am I kidding? It's been this way for a while now. What will I do to change script? The channel, so to speak.
So, come highly recommended from JP and the boys over at Tone Tailors, of course.
Sure.
I'm sure you've been a customer and client and friend of theirs for a while now. Tell me, please, who you are, what you do, why you do it, where you've come from, where you've been, why we're here. What's the story, man?
My name is Ben Roth. I live here in Lancaster, PA. I run a recording studio called the Kaleidoscope. I run sound at a venue called Zoetropolis. I book shows at Zoetropolis. Also run sound over at the Village. Play in a couple musical projects. When Tone Tailors first opened, they were connected to our back wall at the studio, and I had known John LeClaire for a while before then. So we've been buddies for a while, and I guess that explains how I ended up here as one of your podcast guests.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna get into all that. So let's jump into Kaleidoscope first.
Sure.
What led you to opening a recording studio in Lancaster, and what typical artists are you working with?
A lot led into opening the studio. When we opened it, there were 3 of us, and all of us had gone to school for music recording. I had played in a bunch of bands that had, worked with other engineers and producers who had kind of made the process exciting for me, and made me want to learn how to do that for other people and, try my hand at it. So we all went in on the space, built it out together, built in the control room, compiled all of our gear, and had enough to hit the ground running with a functional spot. We had all played in bands, so we had a network of musicians and other people who were interested in supporting the space and taking the adventure with us. So now we've been there for about 10 years. We've worked with, bands from all over the country, and we hosted shows there for a while. So we've had bands from all over the world play in our room, and the room was kind of like a center for, DIY shows and place for the community to gather for a while. And as I mentioned, we were attached to Tone Tailors when they first opened up their first shop on King Street, which was an awesome awesome thing for us, having a guitar and repair shop out front. Anytime something would go bust,
Right.
we'd bring it out front, and John LeClaire would have it, working pretty soon after.
Lickety split, yeah.
You know, we would have bands, check out the shop, and if there was a cool pedal they wanted to try on their recording, they'd let us borrow it, bring it back, and use it. We ended up selling them, some pedals and some gear through bands that used stuff on their recordings. Uh, yeah. So at this point, we've mostly settled into, uh, guitar-based rock and roll music.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff sort of finds its way to us. Some hip hop, and everything in between, I guess. But
Yeah,
mostly there.
this is what I'm kind of learning and discovering about the Lancaster music scene, is that it does kind of have this vibe of a sound of more along the styles of the rock and the guitar and maybe some blues there. I just could have spent 3 hours, but just spent an hour talking to Rich Ruoff, Chameleon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a very interesting. Lancaster seems to have this very interesting sound going for it. Whereas, like you said, there's a little bit of like hip hop. There's a couple rappers in there, but it's mainly this kind of indie guitar, acoustic kind of jazz, R&B, blues kind of Lancaster music town. Would you say that's accurate?
That feels right from my perspective. I'm sure there are other people who, their circle is more in another realm that, mine doesn't cross paths with. But yeah, most of the stuff that finds its way to us is in the guitar music realm. Rich Ruoff, I work for him every Monday over at the Village. He does Blue Monday.
Yep.
So he's bringing in blues artists from all over the country. We've had some really, really awesome ones. This guy named Clarence Spady comes to mind for anyone who likes blues guitar. This guy is so freaking cool and just has the vibe.
Dude, what I'm realizing is I'm more in the entertainment side. I'm more in the business ownership side of things. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I'm more realizing is that doing these podcasts, you're my third episode. There have been so many names and so many bands dropped in just the span of this 3 hours that I've started this whole thing, that it is going to take me forever to listen, discover, get into all of them. I mean, I was just on your, the Kaleidoscope's, Spotify playlist. And I mean, it's different artists after artists after artists after genre after style. And I'll be honest with you, it's a little overwhelming, but it is so, that's why I'm excited to do this, because it's new. Because the only people, if you ask me, oh, what's good music nowadays, I'd be like, I think Post Malone's working on a new album. Like, that's the extent of my, and so I'm really excited to dive deep, and just the band names and the name drops and the artists, and just from blues to the 80s to today to everything. It's
a lot.
It's a lot. And I think, what do you do differently, man? I mean, how do you stand out? I mean, I know there's a couple different recording studios in Lancaster. There's so many venues Rich and I were just talking about now in Lancaster. What's something that you do differently at Kaleidoscope that people can kind of, I don't know, attach onto or just kind of expect, it would be the word.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. And I'm not good at boasting for myself typically, but I would say that for any recording studio, ultimately, a big thing should be how the recordings turn out and letting your work kind of speak for itself. So my partner John and I, we've been working hard with our nose to the grindstone for 10 years. And, if you listen to that Spotify playlist, I've sort of included, it's like sort of an autobiographical experience, but there's, recordings from when we first started all the way up until now, to kind of also document our progress and our journey. So whenever someone's curious about booking time at the studio and isn't already familiar with us, I'll send them the playlist that I sent you, just to get a feel for the kind of stuff that we've done. I think also for me, it's a lot about just interpersonal connections and relationships. Uh, Lancaster has a lot going on and a lot of great people.
Mhm.
So as someone who's been here for a little while, I've gotten to know a lot of these people and played with them or gone to see them or
Mhm.
had them see me play, and all of that I think builds a sense of whether or not the vibe is right, or the relationship is right for us to work together and do something. And as a business owner, I try to go out of my way to really put forward that we care about the scene and the final product and the whole process while we're doing it, uh, and hope that makes people consider spending some time and money with us to work on their music.
Yeah. Do you have any attachments, or have you ever lived in or done music work in Philly at all?
I've played lots in Philly. I've never lived in Philly, but I've got lots of connects there. And even before I moved to Lancaster, was playing in bands that would play in Philly or tour through Philly.
I now have a list, not only of everyone who I've interviewed on this podcast thus far, Tuck Ryan, Rich Ruoff. I have a friend, Chris Tremogli, and plenty of others that I'm sure maybe even people that have left Lancaster, gone to Philly, or even come from Philly back to Lancaster. And it's just this kind of this connection that I'm trying to put together. So thank you for your input there. I'm still working on my thesis, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing that over the last couple of weeks I've just heard this pattern of Philly and Lancaster, Lancaster and Philly, and the music scenes are kind of not the same, but similar in the sense that like it works here and there at the same time. So I'm just curious if you had a little any more insight on that, but
Uh, I mean, it's hard to slap a general thesis on such a personal thing as far as like
yeah.
an artist and where they might live at some portion of their life.
Mm.
Uh, you know, the world's pretty small, so the internet exists. A lot of people in similar scenes will know each other or know of each other's venues or recording studios and bands. You find out that a lot of these things are pretty small world and pretty connected.
Yeah.
Uh, some people I find will move out to Philly in search of opportunity.
Mhm.
A lot of opportunities exist there. Uh, the name Philadelphia rings a larger bell, I think, in the music scene than Lancaster.
Literally
Uh,
and metaphorically and
a
historically. Yeah.
Sure. Uh, so I see the promise, and why people would relocate there and want to be somewhere that has more opportunity. Uh, but again, it's an incredibly personal thing because opportunity also might look like a more affordable cost of living, or
Yeah.
if you're thinking about having kids or starting a family or getting married, uh, you know, maybe Lancaster starts to look a little bit
Yeah.
nicer.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's still music stuff going on, and it's an hour and a half away, so you can gig. Uh, yeah, I think it's very personal depending on the person and where they are
Yeah.
in their journey and why they're doing it and what they want out of it. But luckily, they're both pretty close to each other, so there can be a lot of connectivity and collaboration.
True. Are you more with the studio? Are you more on the music recording side, or are you more on the business? We've got to run it, social media, website, finances, all that stuff, or are you and your partners all equally in on everything?
So my partner and I share the duties pretty evenly. Historically, I'll run our social media pages just because naturally I kind of like took to that. Uh, and he took a little bit faster towards the mixing and engineering side of things. Um, and together, we sort of fill in each other's gaps and both have our strengths and high points with the process. Uh, but in most ways, we kind of split everything down the middle as far as our duties and compensation and
Yeah.
the work that comes in.
Would you say it's a how has been when you decided to open the studio, did you have any business sense at all, or were you just the music guy who wanted to start the business with his passion, or who had that between you?
Uh, I think we kind of figured it out
Yeah.
as we went. Um, yeah, that's a good question.
Well,
When we set, go
so,
ahead.
no, sorry. So I guess I only ask because there's this notion of people in my circle, and I think just especially out there in general that like, yeah, we have these passions, we have these ideas. Like I'm a musician, I could help record and master other artists. I'm going to open a studio, but then like they don't know the first thing about running a business and taxes and business and social media, and you've got to be 17 different hats to
Oh
make this whole
yeah,
thing work. And like the people aren't just going to come in and be like, "Oh, Kaleidoscope, I'm going to give you my money and record for no reason." We've got to constantly prove ourselves and build the business. And so I'm sure over 10 years, you guys have had what most of us has probably had. I started my one business 10 years ago, and then the last one about 6 or 7. So I fully understand that kind of, we've got to spend like 75% of our time like being business owners, and then the other 25% of
yeah,
the time we get to actually have fun and do music and play the game, and vice versa.
yeah.
We switch those percentages from time to time, but I think I commend and I give my props and respect to people like you and Rich and Tuck and everyone else who is able to tap into that challenge of running a business and also loving what you do, right?
Yeah.
It's this cliche. I think what's the term? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, which I think is kind of half bullshit
That's
anyways.
not true.
Which is
Yeah,
but at the end of everything,
it's still the best.
you make your own schedule, you're your own boss, you don't really answer to too many other people than your clients, and at the end of the day, it's like, yes, we have stresses as business owners and taxes and this and that and this and clients who aren't happy with the work or whatever the situation may be, but it's a lot better than having to deal with a shift lead and a manager and calling off and whatever
Yep.
the like people somebody just told me a story of something that they went through at their job the other day, and I was like, you couldn't just go and like to your doctor's appointment, like they had to call off and no one was there to cover their shifts, and they got
Oy.
written up, and it was their third strike and they thought they were going to lose their job, and it's like
Oh my God.
this whole like corporization of the job industry, and it's I just couldn't help but laugh at that. I'm like, wait, you're serious? Like they make you do that? And like,
Yeah.
who says you have to do that? And they're like, oh, well, the manager, it's in the
Company
handbook, it's
policy.
company
Yeah,
policy. And I'm
yeah.
like, you're the same human being as they are, and they don't like, what's the, I'm so out of that world now, and
Same.
it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, I'm sure, because I'm sure with myself, with you, if there's lulls in the business, that means there's lulls in the income and the money and the bills and the things. We quickly start to smartly figure out, well, what bill can be okay 30 days out, and who's going to shut down my account if I don't pay the bill tomorrow, kind of situation. But then we figure it out, we bootstrap it, we become business owners, and we get invoices in, and everything's fine for the next 3 to 6 months, and then we do it all over again. And so yeah, I just all that rant to just commend you on getting through, and especially with challenges like a national pandemic. I mean, talk to me.
Oh my God.
Talk to me there. Were you guys just breaking the rules and having people in the studio all through COVID nonstop? We can talk about it now, right? No one.
Sure. Well, yeah, first of all, commend you as well as a fellow entrepreneur.
Thank you.
And a lot of what you said rings true to my experience, which is, there's trade-off for everything you do. And sometimes it's really, really gratifying and you're reminded why you love doing what you're doing. And other times, you ask yourself why, or if there would be like an easier way or a less stressful way.
I literally every other week I come up with new creative ideas to go get a regular job again, just to feel something. Like I just off the wall randomness. I just discovered that you can multiple corporations, Target, Taco Bell, any multi-million-dollar franchise, has an online public accessible merch shop for their employees. So if you need a new polo for your manager job at Target, you can go get a Target branded polo for like $20 on the bullseyeshop.com.
Sure.
My whole bit is no one, not a single hiring manager in central Pennsylvania alone, let alone the rest of the country, at Target, Taco Bell, whatever, has ever had anyone walk in to a job interview with the branded logo organization of that company that you're interviewing for ever, ready to go to work as soon as the interview's over, whether that happens or not. And it's like an instant, you get the job, right? Like, come on, let's be honest. If you walked into Target for an interview for an entry-level job with a Target polo on,
that'd be pretty funny.
Like, no, I've never worked at Target before. I just want this job and I'm dedicated to you. They're going to hire you every time. So like, it's
Can you start now?
my brain's always thinking of different ideas. Every time I walk into Sheets and they're like, night shift leads make $28 an hour. And I'm like, oh, I could do that. And it would be so easy. And I wouldn't have to stress about anything ever again. But then I'm just like, ow. I love the business too much. The challenge of being a business owner is what drives me every day.
One of the biggest challenges as a business owner is creating a demand for what you do. And, finding people who believe in your vision and want to be your clients and whatever. So a really attractive part of giving the whole thing up and just going to work for someone else is that, that whole stressful thing then is someone else's problem. And you know that you can count on your check to clear and how many hours a week. And the security feels attractive sometimes for sure. I don't really so much think about that anymore just because pretty much my entire life I've, done gig work and been, pushing for these projects that I've been working on to, give me the life that I want and sustain me. And I find myself not really thinking about that too much these days and being busy enough. I have enough shit to do to keep me busy that steady work isn't what's hard right now.
And I apologize. My rants and interrupting gets us off track. It's the undiagnosed.
I appreciate I appreciate all that. And as someone who doesn't know you, I kind of wanted to ask you some of these questions as well, or was curious about where you were coming from. So shine a light on all this stuff. I'm happy to chime in.
So let's take it back to COVID. How did you guys navigate those waters?
Yeah, COVID was scary. A lot of uncertainty about what was going to happen and where music and arts and just the world in general was going to go. At that moment, we have everything tied up into this space. We paid money to build it out. All of our gear, everything that we've been working on belongs in this space that, sort of overnight, all of a sudden, we're not sure if there's going to be a need for that kind of thing anymore. But strangely enough, around that time, we started to get busy enough that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and it started to feel a little bit less scary about what's going to happen, or are people still gonna need this or want this? The timing of it was fortuitous. I don't know how much one had to do with the other. And obviously the music industry itself kind of changed a lot during COVID, where, all of a sudden people had time where they didn't before. People are getting little home studio setups and working on the project that they weren't sure if they were ever going to put together.
We've been talking about for the last 3 years, album coming soon.
All of a sudden, now you got time.
Where is it? Right. Let's go.
Rubber meets the road. So simultaneously people are more empowered to be creative and to do it themselves, but then also simultaneously realizing the tremendous value of involving people who have more experience that you trust. People are realizing that mixing is hard and recording is hard and editing is hard. So, we ended up being tapped in to help people, do stuff that they couldn't do at home, like record live drums or, finish mixing it and bring it across the finish line. So in a strange and uncertain and scary time, and a time where a lot of change happened very quickly, uh, we found ourselves adapting and new ways to look at it that were making things work. And, that felt like what it's all about.
Yeah.
Make it work, adapt with the current scenario. And that's what we were doing.
Yeah, and you had mentioned trying to have people see the value out of versus with this studio and versus DIY, and that was kind of my next question: is how do you convince anyone that the quality that they'll get recording at your studio is way better than their $80 Blue Yeti and Audacity? I mean,
I haven't really had to have any conversation specifically about that. Uh, and that's one of the reasons why I send out that playlist is, take a listen to what we're doing and see how you're feeling and what's inspiring you, or just how your recordings that you're doing yourself are sounding. And if what you're doing feels right, then maybe you should do it yourself, and that's great.
right.
And if you're hearing like, our stuff compared to your stuff, like, man, I really wish I could get that sound. Well, then that's why
It's that next
you
level, right?
go to a studio or someone else whose work you appreciate.
Right, right. That next
Uh,
level. Yeah.
it seems like in my totally personal take on the industry, at least from what I've observed so far, is that a lot of the people that I look up to, engineers and producers who have made records that I love, they work for a while and they're getting experience. Obviously, every story is different, but they work on some album or something that becomes like their breakthrough, landmark thing that all of a sudden you're just known because you're the person who did this thing that everybody loves.
Mhm.
And then you're kind of, you've got your foot in the door, and you'll always be the person who did that thing and probably always have work. I think that's generally what we've been working towards. And it's the kind of thing that you can't really force it or fake it or predict it or calculate it. You just work hard and hope for the best and hope that the work speaks for itself, and that it finds the right people who resonate with it. And, that makes the whole wheel go round.
I love it. Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense. If you're at the level where you need a studio, you need a studio. And that it's kind of, if you're in the industry and you're a musician, it's kind of like that like switch in the back of your head. You'll know when it's time. So like you don't really, it's not a factor that you have to deal with. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And you yourself, you're in a band, you're in a group.
I'm in a couple projects.
Okay, project. What would you say? I apologize interrupting. What's the difference between a project and a band? Is that just you come together for one album and then it's done, or
No, it's just the word.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just an interchangeable word.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm playing in a couple projects right now. All of them have sort of taken a back seat, whereas 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I was pushing really hard to be out and touring and trying to make my mark as a musician and see where that would go. Now the studio work and the booking work and running live sound has become the more steady gig, where I'm not sleeping on floors or paying for hotel rooms or whatever, which as I'm getting a little bit older feels better, but I'm still compelled to create and, love collaborating with other musicians and, feel drawn to make music in a couple different styles. So there's a couple projects that I'm working on that are, forever in the works at this point. But hopefully we'll see the light of day sometime soon. There's a punk. Go ahead.
No. Continue your thought.
There's a punk band that I play in called Kids. That's the most long running project that I'm part of right now. The guitar player of that band, he plays bass in Mannequin Pussy, which a lot of people would probably know. But that's kind of like fast, grindy, power violence, punk stuff.
Yep.
There's a project that's a little bit more like Deftones and brand new inspired called Drive All Night. We did a studio album at our place, and now we're kind of put a live band together behind these songs and decided we just wanted to write like a brand new album. So we sort of have one in the chamber and some new stuff started. And I'm working on a collection of my own songs right now. Struggling with either naming the project, after myself, which I have a weird relationship with. For some people, it works well, and all the power to them. But I just have such a weird time, like being up there with the band and saying, "What's up? We're Ben Roth. You're Ben Roth. I'm Ben Roth.
Right,
You're Ben Roth.
right.
Let's go." Uh,
Yeah.
so the current name that I'm workshopping right now is The New Forever.
Okay.
I'm gonna be so sad if somebody takes that name after seeing this podcast if I haven't solidified it yet.
We gotta buy the domain, set up the socials, set up the Spotify, get everything set. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still available, thankfully. But yeah, The New Forever feels like it might be my new project name.
Okay. Is there a different process for writing songs, coming up with lyrics, the melody, the tone between these projects? Like if you're doing
Yeah.
so what would you say, maybe not all of them, let's just go down for your new one, right? The New Forever. What's your writing and creative process like?
Lately it sort of varies between let me take a step back here. I recently just got my own place for the first time in my life. I live alone.
Good for you.
So every day, I sit here at my kitchen table and I have coffee and I have my guitar. And I recently discovered some open tunings, courtesy of Max from Fragile Like Life After, who might actually be a worthwhile candidate for your podcast here.
Perfect.
He's
Thank
another
you.
local. He
Yep.
works at Phantom Power and plays in a bunch of bands.
I think he might already be on my list. I know I have
Awesome.
someone from Phantom definitely on the list already, but yeah, we will. Yep, 100%.
Cool. Anyway, he basically shared with me a couple open tunings, and I've never really dabbled in open tunings before.
And
So
what's an open tuning for those of us who don't know?
it's basically you tune your guitar so that you can strum all the strings open and it creates a chord instead of having to hold the frets down and make the chord like you would in standard tuning. You tune your guitar so that you just strum the open strings and boom, there's a chord. And having played the guitar for a while, trying an open tuning kind of makes it feel like a brand new instrument,
Right.
which was really cool for me because it kind of reinvented the guitar for me, and all the shapes and finger placements that I knew kind of went out the window. So I'm hearing all these brand new sounds coming out of this instrument that's sort of an old friend to me. And songs just kind of started falling out. So usually it'll start with either a vocal idea, something that just sticks with me throughout the day, feels like a simple, catchy line or whatever, and I'll try to write music around it. Or start with the guitar first, and then usually simultaneously, like words will start to come through the ether or phrases, and then all of a sudden there's a sentence, and I'm like, huh, what does that mean? Maybe I can follow the rabbit hole a little bit, and whoa, more came out. Wow, now there's a new part. Now there's a song.
Yeah.
A lot of times, my favorite songs kind of happen like that. They just like bleh, fall out, and for every fruitless day of sitting with the guitar and trying stuff that doesn't quite feel right, or working on something that could be something, maybe will, maybe won't, the best stuff just kind of seems to happen in like one sitting, where all of a sudden the song just comes out in a very natural and intuitive way, at least for me personally. And those are my favorite works of my own. Anyway,
Interesting. I talked to Tuck Ryan last week, and he's a dreamer. He gets a lot of his inspiration and song lyrics from his dreams. Is that applied to you at all? Not really.
Every now and then,
Sure.
my stuff feels more like it's about like my reality, that I'm actually like sitting here in. But I would love to I would love to have more dreams that I remember that I could
Well,
use
and
for
I was just about to say
song inspiration.
I couldn't do it either because I can't remember the last time I had something that I remember. The only dreams that I remember are my reoccurring nightmares, and that is
Oh
of
God.
I'm a wedding DJ, so usually on the weekends that's where I'm at, and so my recurring nightmare every single time I will tell my fiance about it. She can testify. It is the same every single time, and it is me going to the wedding and someone there, the bride, my partner, a guest, the venue owner, whatever, just gets me in a conversation and we just start talking. Oh, yeah, it's great. We do this, that, this, that. And we just talk and talk and talk. And we lose track of time. And boom, the ceremony is starting. And I don't even have my reception. I don't have my reception speakers set up. I don't have any. So I'm scrambling. Like I'm asking if we can hold it for 30 minutes. Like, give me a second to put my towers up. I need my whole thing. And it's just like, that is my recurring nightmare. So I can't, yeah, I'm along the same boats. I don't really have too powerful dreams anymore.
So if I ever see you at a wedding and you're working and you just don't want to talk to me, I will not take it personally.
But what's hilarious is because like in the dream, my subconscious is telling me like, this is you, Levi. This is the type of person you are. You'll just talk to anybody. Hence the reason I'm doing a podcast right now. Like so I'll convince myself it's real. And then when I show up to the weddings, I'm just like, okay, say hi, shake a hand, get out, shake a hand, like, and then make sure you're set up. So much so to the point that every single wedding I go to, I'm in my car for an hour or two, just hanging out because that's how quickly I got set up. So,
cool.
so with that song making process, you're at your table, you got your guitar. Are you, whether it be in production or pre or writing, are we using AI at all? How do we?
Hell no.
Okay. So another one for that.
And no offense to anyone who does, other than the disaster that it contributes to as far as climate change and all that.
Okay.
I think we do use plugins that have advanced algorithms and make things way easier than it would have been 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I'm not afraid of technology per se. But at least when it comes to creativity and something that feels as personal as like you trying to tell your story, I think you definitely lose some of the realness and the authenticity. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it makes the song better or worse, it stops being, as wholly you as it could be, which again, everyone's why is different when it comes to why they're creating or what they want out of it. But for me, I sort of hope that it's to share a very personal side of myself, very like intimate, my soul, my voice, my personal experience that only I can tell, even if I don't do it as well as a computer. That's sort of what makes it human and beautiful.
No, and I fully agree. That's the response we've gotten thus far, and I'm hoping we don't actually add a tick to the other side of it. I'm
curious if you do. What that person's logic would be around it.
And I want that. I want that answer. I mean, I don't think here when I say are you using AI for your music, I would never expect you or any other Lancaster County artist or producer or whoever to just go and be like, write me a song, write me a melody, and then use 11 Labs to generate a voice, and poof, there's our song. Are you a lot more along the lines of like, if you're stuck on just one line, give the whole song to ChatGPT and be like, what should come next? Like, just maybe that help along the way. I'd be curious if you were to, and not saying we're going to or have to, but what would convince you if the output was actually good? Like if I took all 10 of your most recent songs or projects or albums and I gave ChatGPT all the lyrics, all the videos, everything that you've done in the last 10 years and said, hey, my name's Ben Roth. I'm working on a new song. Here's everything I've done. I need you to match my style, my cadence, my attitude, my everything. and then
I'd be so
it
curious.
spits out us a verse, and you're like, wait a minute. And then you're like, and hey, it's not going to be perfect. We're going to have to tweak it and change it. But if it would give you that kind of liftoff, that starting point, and then it turns into an actual song, does that become a use case for this AI generation? By all means, I'm not talking Timberland stealing indie artist TikTok sounds to put into some Opus AI thing. Now he's signing AI artists, whatever Timberland's doing.
I heard about that.
We'll let him go. But
yeah, I can't relate to any of that.
No, of course, no. And but I'd be curious if, like, at a minimum, if we train, because out the gate, any AI, ChatGPT, whatever, it doesn't know shit about you. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your style, your attitude, your cadence, your lyrics. If you ask it to go find those things on the internet, I'm sure it will. But if you feed it said information, your lyrics, your PDFs, the text files, whatever, now it knows you a little bit. And so it might be able to help you just come up with that last bar or that hook or that chorus. You've got all the other bridges ready to go, but you just need one little stinger in the chorus to kind of bring the song home.
I can see why that would have somebody try it out.
Yeah.
For sure. We probably would never know. No. And that can be fine.
Yeah.
But my personal ethos around the whole thing is that, I don't have like a big record label or team that's all being fed off my work, waiting for the next hit. And there's like really pressure to, craft a diamond, and I'm stuck and need to make this happen. And there's all, my personal why is, again, just for like the catharsis and the sharing of my personal experience.
You're creative.
So I'm moving, at my own speed, totally free of any kind of like pressure or reason to like need to finish past my own personal ability and means. So I guess I'm blessed for that. But all the things that you mentioned are absolutely, valid reasons that I could see somebody opening up that door and trying out some of these tools. And yeah, as you're describing, I can't help but imagine what that experience would be like, of sharing all my previous work and here's my new ideas and here's all this now. Like, be the window to my soul, ChatGPT, and show me my like inner truth, and how freaking weird it would be if it really felt like it resonated. Maybe someday I'll have that experience. But not yet.
I think one of these days whether it's you or Tuck or whoever's, I'm going to take their lyrics. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what we can, and listen, 9 times out of 10.
Don't do it with me, because I'm not ready for that revelation yet.
It's probably going to be trash. I've seen them do it with stand-up comedians. Will take like and be like, hey, write me a joke in the tone of Tim Dillon or Joe Rogan or whoever. And
wow.
And they're usually, basically what ChatGPT does is it creates like the corniest joke ever, but puts in like their cadences. So like, like Chris D'Elia says dude a lot. So like the joke will include like, hey dude, at the very beginning. And it's like, okay, this is the D'Elia part and then a joke.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So it's interesting. Right. Yet. Where would you say you're a singer-songwriter, right? That's how you define yourself. Kind of, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a vocalist. Yeah.
Yeah. In the case of my personal project that I'm working on now, yes.
How do you feel about, and I know this doesn't necessarily apply to other artists in maybe Lancaster and more of just kind of the record label pop artist kind of industry, but how do you feel about artists? Is pretty much all of them call themselves singer-songwriters, but they're just going into a recording studio with pre-bought, pre-recorded, pre-written songs from Benny Blanco, and they're just picking the best ones that they think will be number one on the charts, and then that's how they're making their album, versus like like a pop star claiming they do write all their stuff. Like I guess a Taylor Swift would be the one that comes to mind at the top of the list. I hate bringing up her name because most indie artists just despise the woman. But
Oh, I don't care.
no. But at the end of the day, when you look at these albums from Taylor Swift versus someone like Beyonce, Taylor Swift has herself and like one or two advisors as the writer credits. And Beyonce's got 28 for every song.
Yeah.
So is she a singer-songwriter or is she just like me in the lines of an entertainer? Like it, like how does that how do you feel like that translates for someone like you? And when do you is the record label that kind of next step to then be like, oh, well, it's someone else's song, but I'm going to make it my own? Does that not happen in the indie world? Or
Yeah, I mean, those particular artists, I don't really spend any time thinking about, and they're allowed to call themselves whatever they want.
yeah.
And it's, between them and their reflection in the mirror, the truth of how involved they are and how accurate of a description of themselves that really is. But yeah, I don't really give them much time or thought. I think, obviously the closer and more hands-on you are with the crafting of your stuff, the more personal it'll be, and the more your story it will be, and that's more or less important to whoever you're talking to. Despite whatever label they assign to themselves and how accurate that really is. Maybe Beyonce is aspiring to write her own songs, and that's cool. She just happened to sell like 1 billion records before she got around to doing it herself. That's fine with me.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Do you help artists? Like, how do you when artists come to the Kaleidoscope, do you help them? Like, I'm assuming there's plenty of times where they come with like a half baked or like 80 to 90% of an idea. How do you help artists translate their vision into like a polished recording?
Yeah, depending on the artist, or depending, it's sort of run the gamut how prepared and how far along some of the ideas are. The practice of demoing songs has become increasingly more important in what we're asking for from folks who we're considering working with, or someone who we've worked with before who wants to come back and do something else. A general sense of how far along the idea is. Is there a demo is like the first question we've started asking of a lot of people.
Do they have something already before they get to your studio? Right.
Yeah. Even just, the demos that I make here in my kitchen are my cell phone voice memo and me playing my guitar and singing into it. And it's, in most cases, it's still enough to show a proof of concept and to get the wheels turning as far as what else can really happen moving forward. I get really excited when an artist comes to work with us and the songs are at a level of completion where there's still room to try stuff in the studio and to let us, show our artistry and try stuff out or play instruments. That's one of the things that I really love, is getting to work hands-on with people's stuff and getting to take part in the whole thing. Because for me, that's why I started doing it, was because I was having such an awesome time being part of it.
And it almost puts you as a temporary band group member for that session and for that set. Like, you basically are part of the band, right? So yeah, that's no, I think
it makes it very personal.
Yeah.
It helps, everyone's thoughts on this stuff might be different, but for me, it really helps me take ownership of what's happening and get personally invested in the outcome. And as long as generally the artist and us are on the same page as far as the direction that we're going, like what kind of band is inspiring this? Is there a particular album that we can look at?
Yeah.
Like, all of that really helps us say like, okay, so maybe this would be cool. And, every step along the way, we're checking in with the artist and making sure that it's collaborative in what they want, because ultimately it's their work and they have the final yes or no say with stuff.
Yeah.
But that's one of my favorite parts about running a studio and working with other people, is getting on the same page as far as a goal and trying stuff and that moment when like it really comes across the way that we were all hoping and we all high five. That's kind of the best, because I love when that happens for me. And again, that's one of the reasons I wanted to start a studio, is to like, think I can do this with other people's stuff too. So when it works, it's great.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Do you have a time? Was there ever a time where a band or solo or anyone came into the studio who seemed to have all the right credentials, seemed to be a nice person, nice stand-up guy, and they were just what, like they weren't it, like your ear started bleeding type of situation? Like, has there ever been just like someone where you're just behind the deck and like, okay, yeah, why don't you try this? And knowing that whatever they try is not going to be better, and pray that they never come back to the studio again. Yeah, that's a hard day. Earlier when you said, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. In a lot of cases, that's really true. But doing what you love for a living definitely changes your relationship with it a little bit. Yep. So those days when you're doing what you love, but it's feeling really hard and it's not working, and those are the days where you kind of say, all right, where's this website with the Target shirts? I can show up with the shirt and like hopefully have a job by the end of the day. Because I think I would rather quit than like tell someone they're bad,
cross over into hating what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If luckily for us, the longer that we're doing this, we're learning how to ask better questions of people who we don't already know, and sort of suss out stuff that we already know like is not going to be good for us to work on. Yep. And hopefully, recommend the right place for them to go, even if it's not with us. Like, just because it's not for me doesn't mean I don't want you to do well, and that I have any sort of ill will. Like, I want you to have the best outcome for your thing, and I want to not be sad. Yeah. And as long as we can mutually like agree and regard each other's outlooks there, less and less there's stuff that feels hard to work on. Yeah. And now it's just, how can we make everything that we're doing as good as it can possibly be?
Well, I'll tell you what, don't let me in there. As much as I try to convince you, as much as I try to tell you, the only song that I can do okay is Mistletoe by Justin Bieber. It's on Spotify. Everyone can listen to it now. Shameless plug. But
you did a cover of it?
Yeah, just as a one, to say I could, and two, just as to prove to the indie artist and rappers and other musical talent people that I'm friends with who have had this same Facebook status for years saying the album's coming soon.
Big things coming soon.
New single dropping, new song dropping, new collab dropping, and then nothing ever comes. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Give me 15 minutes. Where's Justin Bieber? It's Christmas time. Throw on Mistletoe. And guess what? Now it's everywhere. And I love it. It turned out so good. And every time I try to record any other song, it just doesn't work for me. I've tried the AI apps. I've tried auto-tune. It would seem to be that this one song is the only song for me. So unless I'm in there mastering my Mistletoe cover, maybe, actually, honestly, dude, that might just be, actually, I just figured it out. I think I might need to take my bit one step further, and this Christmas come into the studio and actually master and record Mistletoe, because the first iteration was just me and Justin on like a laptop mic messing around. And then like 2 years ago, I did it with the actual mic and audition and recording to what I thought was best and whatever. So I think the next and final last step, I think we might have to make that happen this Christmas. I think.
Well, send me a demo and we'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah.
I do love the idea of retiring while you're batting 1,000 though.
Just one song, bro.
If you did it and it worked, drop the mic and let everyone know that you did it.
That's right.
You did it.
And listen, I haven't performed it live anywhere yet, but with this podcast, our Tone Tailor Connects, Mickey's, Tellis, Zoetropolis, I think maybe then once I get it recorded in the studio, I perform it one time, one show only, and then that's the saga. That is a Twilight saga of Levi McCurdy singing Mistletoe by Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
I
He
love
he
it.
quit while he was on top,
I love
and
it.
there you shall remain.
It's so good. And I think honestly too, I used to another insider baseball. For about 8 years, up until I started Sparks Entertainment DJing stuff, I was a professional magician. So gig work
Cool.
is not uncommon to me. A little bit different than music, but magic almost the same.
Sure.
So maybe that's what the show becomes. I do one magic trick, I sing one song, and then I do an encore by singing the song again. If Kendrick Lamar can sing "Not Like Us" 8 times in a row at his concert, well then I think I should be able to
Oh my
sing
God.
"Mistletoe" by Justin Bieber at least twice.
Did he really do that at one show?
When we were in the middle of the Drake Kendrick beef, there
Yeah.
was, I think, like a Juneteenth celebration show in Compton or Atlanta, some historical date he did a show for, and it was him and like 5 other artists, but Kendrick was the biggest one. And he started with "Not Like Us," did another song, did "Not Like Us" again, did 2 more songs,
my
did not,
God.
and he did it like 4 or 5 or 6 times, and it was this whole thing. And I'm not a Kendrick fan, so I'm always Team Drake anyways. But
I do like that song, but I can't imagine being as excited when he starts doing it the 4th time as I was the first time.
Here's the thing. We live in the United States of America, and our brains, most of them are just, we enjoy the simple things. So when we cut all of the music and instruments, when we get to the line that says A minor, it is in all of our DNA now that we have to, like you just did, we all have to say it. Whether the song,
everybody in the room knows
you
it.
just have to say it, and he knows
It's
that.
really good.
And it's an issue, and I hate the fact. Listen,
So he's milking it.
hot take. The only reason Kendrick Lamar is selling out his tour with SZA right now is because of that song. And I'm sorry. That's it. Whatever. We'll get out of it. But was there a time in the studio, best session ever, hands down to this date? Nothing's topped it. Who was it? What day? Tell me the whole thing. What was like the number one?
Best session ever.
Mhm.
I don't know if there was a best session ever. That's really hard. There are some favorites that come to mind. One of my favorites, we worked with this artist called the Mighty Theodore last year, and he put out this absolutely unstoppable, awesome album called The Old Rap Language.
Said was your own damn people, better actors and rappers, Mario Van Peebles, never fake the funk, no Robert Van Winkle. Everything we dropped, everybody them singles. I like mines, no school to prison pipeline, boogie boards ready, just waiting for the right time.
He had the beats all sent over to us, and we recorded all of his vocals, which were awesome. And then he had all these amazing features. There's members of The Roots. There's this dude Guilty Simpson, who's like a J Dilla and MF Doom collaborator. All these like legendary names that are on this album that came out of our studio. Listen to the Mighty Theodore, the Old Rap Language.
Okay.
That's the first one that comes to mind. There wasn't anything particularly wild going on that day.
Okay.
I think we had tacos for lunch. But there was a feeling in the room that what we were doing was special. Mm-hmm. I will say that, so many friends of mine and myself are music lovers, and we'll listen to a song and say, like, man, you think they knew, in the studio that this was like going to be a special thing, or this was going to be a hit? And, who knows? The answers vary depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
But I will say that this Mighty Theodore record we worked on, I did have a feeling of like, at least this is like the best thing that, like the best rap album that we've worked on here to date. Or, I can see this having legs and going somewhere. There was a sense that we were working on something that was going to be really cool. Mm-hmm. And so far in the year that it's dropped, that seems to be resonating with other people too.
I was gonna say, as a music studio, and I'm gonna check that out and listen to the whole thing.
Please do.
As a music studio, I'm sure, is that the end goal after the session's over, everything's mastered, the artist puts out the project. Are you guys just are you waiting, like, fingers crossed, maybe this will chart, maybe an award, maybe the like, is that yeah.
I mean, yeah, not necessarily with those like exact milestones
Sure.
in mind, uh, but more so hoping that something we do will resonate with somebody else the way that my favorite records have resonated with me.
Yeah.
Someone comes across it and it makes a difference in their life or makes them want to start a band or want to have a good recording or want to start a studio themselves.
Mhm.
Anything that can inspire the culture to move forward is what I hope will come out of what we do. And, like I mentioned before, it seems to be the way that, you'll work on something and it'll make waves and then you're forever the person who did that thing and people want to work with you or whatever. And that's great. But if at the end of the day, at the end of the day, hopefully what it does is just reach someone that, will have a special moment with it and a connection to it. Yeah, to me, it's mostly about just sharing a connection. And obviously, if you do something really big that tops the charts or whatever, then you connected with a lot of people,
Yeah.
and that's great. So, yeah, I guess then in a way, yeah, we are hoping for stuff like that. But I hope that it doesn't come across in a superficial way or, too much of a self-serving way, because really what I hope for is that people connect with it and that it means the same thing to someone else that my favorite stuff means to me.
Yeah. I love that. That's no, that I think that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate that answer. How do you so what's next? How is the studio evolving? Do we have plans, upgrades, remodel? What's next for the studio?
The studio, steady as she goes forward, I guess.
Yeah.
I think John and I would love one day to have a bigger space. As I mentioned, moving into this place, I set up my own little home studio here.
Yep.
I'll show you.
There it
I
is.
got my monitors, got my Moog. We only have one control room in our physical studio.
Yep.
So the way we're splitting work right now, John will mix there during the day and I'll bring stuff home. And I'm working from home for the first time, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think one day, like owning our own building,
Yep.
There's a lot of benefits to having a landlord because if something breaks, then we say, Evan, please come fix this thing. But I also calculated, how much rent we've paid at our space over the last 10 years. And, the idea that if we had our own space that eventually, all that would come back to us or belong to us.
Yeah.
It would be great to own our own building and to have a space, big enough for 2 control rooms, a little bit of extra storage, and a nice live room like we've got right now.
Yeah.
We're working with, artists that I think keep getting better and better, and we've developed a lot of really strong relationships with, returning artists. I'm sort of a big believer of the old rising tide raises all the ships kind of thing. So as long as everyone's like sticking with it and working on their own individual things and, then working collaboratively as we do stuff together, I think, it's going to be good for everyone. But yeah, would love a bigger space eventually.
Yeah, your own, man. I've been just in the last 6 months been trying to look for my own space. I mean, I retrofitted this space when we moved into the house because I knew I needed a studio and a place to work and record, and it's now turned into this set. There's a whole
It looks very cool, by the way.
Whole nother podcast set over there. If you check out What Are We Doing, you can see that wonderful backdrop. But I mean, it is, yeah, but I've been here every day, all day for 5 years, whether I'm meeting with wedding couples, whether I'm meeting with a Pixel and Hammer client, whether I'm doing my own podcast, whether I'm doing a Tone Tailors podcast or whatever it be, is in this tiny little, probably 400 square foot, I don't even know, room is what should be an attic, but I put walls and an air conditioner in here, so we're good. And I've been looking for my own space just to A, get out of the house, but B, have something bigger because I have bigger ambitions and dreams. And if I can have multiple podcasts and everyone else wants a podcast and the kids out in Westchester have their own podcast studio that's making money, well, why shouldn't I? And so and looking for my own space, it's like, dude, even the smallest little spot for room for just one studio like I have now in my house is $3,000 a month. Like, 3 times as much my mortgage. So it's like if you are not a foot traffic selling physical products type of store like Tone Tailors, the physical space is tough, man. And I mean, congratulations to you guys for what you have, but it is especially now, it's like every place I call, they're like, yeah, it's $100 a square foot, which they will never tell me what the damn monthly price is, by the way. I don't know what it is about commercial real estate that they can't just tell me the price. I got to then go do the math and then take $40,000 divided by 12. And then it comes
that's
out
shifty.
And it's
just
like,
tell me.
And it's like $4,000 a month for what? On top of the utilities in my house and all my other bills? Okay. Well, now,
we talked a little bit about how COVID sort of changed the game, on the professional side of things, but also just on the physical real estate side of things. We've gotten really lucky getting into our space 10 years ago, having a landlord who like knows what we do and is enthusiastic and making sure that, it's possible for us to do what we want to do there. The idea of buying a space the size of what we have now in the middle of Lancaster City, it's just not realistic. But yeah, I guess I dream of like kind of like a getaway kind of retreat type place, maybe outside the city, place where bands can come and stay for a couple of days. The whole sitch. There's a place out in the Poconos called the Sound Mine. Dan Malsh. He's got like I think it was a barn initially, but he's fitted with a little apartment for bands to come stay, multiple days and like really hunker down and work on stuff.
And that just creates that would just create the ultimate, like if you're trying to create the ultimate sound for your band, like dealing with waking up with your family or whatever and then driving to the studio and traffic and stress and life. But if you can go somewhere and just like have a jam sesh Friday night, don't even record anything, bonfire, team breakfast the next morning, the vibe, drink a little, and then Saturday by like everyone's up and at 'em, we get lunch, and by Saturday at like 1-2 o'clock we're rocking and rolling into Saturday night. Then Sunday we do re-recordings of anything we miss, and then like, oh wow, that vibe would
all
be
of those
immaculate.
All of those things, I imagine. Something I like about the ability to work from home is the ability to kind of like work as I feel inspired, which I think sets up the work for its greatest success. But yeah, all the things that you mentioned, a lot of the bands that we're working with are at least semi-local. Some come in from out of town and will stay at a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever, but it's people who are simultaneously juggling their lives and their work, and then trying to muster the energy to lay down their artwork and get in the right headspace or whatever. I feel like if there's a situation that we can create that gets people out of all of that and just lets them focus on their thing for as long as they're there, like you sound a little tired, why don't you go take a walk by the stream or whatever, we'll come back to this after dinner or whatever. I think that kind of experience would be really cool. I know I would love that, for myself as a recording artist. And I think it would be great to offer that to somebody else.
It's almost like a bed and breakfast, but with a recording studio kind of.
I've done a couple like destination recording experiences, both for myself and for clients. The Poconos, Dewey Beach, like anywhere just to like shake things up and just be somewhere else where you don't have to deal with the everyday stuff of life and work and traffic and whatever. It makes for a really memorable time, if nothing else, but I think also lets you focus on what you're doing in a better way, which helps.
Yeah. Last question, then we'll wrap this up. How do you see, or what are your opinions on what do you see the trend for live shows and live music going in the next couple of years? I just talked to Tuck Ryan, and he is 1000% in and down with these small, intimate house shows. Just talked to Rich Ruoff, who has the opposite opinion of the house shows and is the venue guy, right? So
what's his opinion? I'm curious.
He likes them. Rich thinks there's a spot for them, but it's got a sour taste in his mouth. He did say to me, he didn't mention who it was. I'm speculating a few. Maybe you can tell me off camera, but there's a band, I guess, in Lancaster that Rich has been trying to get to perform at the Lizard Lounge, this club or whatever. And they're like, yeah, man, that's too corporate for us. We're just doing house shows. And so,
oh man,
you know, I could see both sides of the field there, but
sure.
Curious coming from the recording studio side of things is that, and I gave Tuck all my props. I think the intimate house show is important. I think it's an experience. I think what Here is doing with their live DJ sets is great. And I mean, you mentioned that you put on shows and stuff too. So where's that kind of vibe? Because like I mentioned to Rich, we're Post Malone people. We saw him 5 years ago, and 5 years versus the show that we just witnessed in Philly last weekend, night and day. The amount of people, we couldn't move. I spent an abundant amount of money as to what I thought would be the closest I could get my fiance to Post Malone in the crowd as possible. We were still, because of the people, we had to watch him on the damn screen the whole time. Like it's just an experience that isn't anymore. And so I'm wondering, obviously the bands in Lancaster aren't playing Hershey Stadium, but you know, where do you see that trend? Will we see big artists come back to the house show type thing? I think. To wrap up the question,
I mean, All American Rejects, they're doing a house show tour right now.
Yep, All American Rejects are doing a house show tour, and I just saw how they're financing that whole thing, and it's mesmerizing. I love it. And I think
what are they doing to finance it?
They just have a sugar daddy, either a fan or a corporate guy or whatever. They say, okay, we figured it out to get all of our people from here to there, to the bus, to the food, to the whatever, and into someone's backyard. It costs this amount of dollars. And
we love a sugar daddy.
Right, exactly.
Even just the fact that that's where their heads and hearts are at right now is just to make this work, we have a guy who believes in it, so he's going to pay for it so that we can do this for us and our fans. It's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
My personal take is that there's room for all of it. And more and more, it just becomes about the artist's why. You know, if this band that Rich is looking to book that's not why they're doing it, then it might not be a good fit. And ultimately, it's okay to not cross the streams then. As someone who's kind of existed in both like the DIY realm and like proper venue touring circuit realm, my interest a lot of times lies in where there is crossover. You know, artists who have been self-releasing and self-promoting and self-booking, you know, the DIY circuit, which is, you know, houses or warehouses or record shops or
the tiny desk,
or whatever. Tiny desk. You know, at some point after doing that for a while, I think they're probably hoping, again, this is unique to everybody what their reasoning is, but you know, they're probably hoping to be able to connect with a larger audience, and to take a bigger step and to be offered bigger opportunities, you know, in exchange for their time and hard work. And there's no guarantee that it happens. But I think there's a symbiotic relationship between the two, because in a lot of cases, you know, bands that you'll see on bigger stages had to start somewhere. So like, if they didn't have anywhere to start, like how would a lot of these artists, you know, find their people or find that this is a thing that they want to do or get, you know, a couple of steps towards the bigger thing.
Yeah. And if it's one thing that we've learned just in general and in history and in doing this podcast, is that there are some bands out there that get social media and YouTube and can build an audience there. And there are those who don't. Fortunately, I think the larger percentage falls on the don't side of things, but at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. Like it's you can build your audience anywhere, and if that's either in a house or a backyard or even if you are the All-American Rejects, you can. It's such an interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to see where, and I mean, I know we're 5, almost 6 years out, but I mean, I feel like COVID changed that aspect. Like whereas before
Definitely.
it was like we had shows at the clubs, we had shows at the bars, we had shows at the stadiums and at the concert venues, and that was pretty much kind of it. And now we've got shows at Danny's house, we've got shows at the studio, we've got shows at the Lizard Lounge. So it's a very fun. Would you say it's an easy time to be a musician or a hard time?
I think people's experiences vary pretty widely.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's based on what they're hoping to get out of it. I don't know. There are folks who I know who live around here who, might have a day job and then casually, have their project on the side, and recording some songs and playing some gigs is enough to scratch the itch.
Yep.
And they can still do their family stuff or whatever. And that feels good.
Yep.
I have friends who are operating at a bigger level and able to, offer bigger opportunities and able to make their life through music.
Yep.
And all of that's good. I don't know if it's easy or hard. I think there's going to be give or take no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So as long as you're being true to yourself and it's what you really want to do and you enjoy the process of doing it, that's enough reason to keep doing it.
That's just what I call my Gary V attitude. It's like the definition of success is different for everyone. So whether that's $1 million a year or 100,000, I mean, both should be fine for just about any human on this planet. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? That's what it is. One's a lot more obtainable a year than the other, but at the end of the day, right, it depends on what your goals are and who you're going for. Yeah, man, Ben Roth, thank you so much for your time. The Kaleidoscope, Zoetropolis, the Village, the Holy Mass, Drive It All, the kids, everything I had is such an hour just doesn't feel like enough. I now know why Joe Rogan does 3 to 4 at a time, because you got to actually get to know someone. But I think
there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I've got you here. We're gonna have you back on for round 2. Don't Fear Special. I'm saying that to all of our guests, but it's fine because it'll happen. 1 week, JP will say, "I'm sorry, I don't have any names for you," and I'll call Ben, and then you'll be here. So it's good, man.
Whenever it's time, just let me know.
I appreciate it. Do you have anything to plug? Let people know where you're at, social medias, projects, the studio. What can they do? What's the call to action? Make it happen.
Yeah, all of it. Come record with us at the studio. It's easy to check out our work and see if it's something that feels right for your stuff. I'm booking shows over at Zoetropolis, so if you're looking to play a Lancaster gig, feel free to shoot me a message, booking at zoetropolis.com. It's also just a great spot. It's a movie theater, it's a distillery, it's a restaurant. All the people that work there are great. The space is great.
Yep.
Come see a show at the Village. Come see any of these bands play. Yeah, get in it, be part of it. It's a blast. You'll connect with people, and that's sort of what makes the whole thing feel worth it, at least for me. So it's all out there and easy to find if you want to. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Pleasure talking with you. All of his links and everything you guys need to find him and his businesses and the studio and bands will all be in the description down below. And of course, speaking of that description, there's also a link to tonetailors.com where you can find all of your guitars, your strings, your amplifiers, your microphones, everything you need to.
Strymon Night Sky from Tone Tailors.
Boom, there it is. Link to that exact product is down below. You can shop online 24/7 and in their store in downtown Lancaster. We just moved back to Lancaster, so we're here, we're rocking and rolling, and we are here to provide you with whatever you need to get ready to make music and then eventually go off and record at the Kaleidoscope. Thank you guys so much. Another episode of the Tone Tailors Podcast down. We'll see you guys next week with another amazing musical guest. Is that
my
a
best friends bragging to my boss. Didn't even check the price tag or the cost. I look to my right, I see Nicholas Cage is my cardboard graffiti.